I mean, our guest today, but no introduction needed, Vanessa Tena. She is Mrs. Texas Earth, and we were introduced through a mutual friend of ours, Abraham Herndon, who we have a whole segment for him called No Mames Abraham, because he's a character.
Yes.
You know, right off camera we were talking about how we're gonna have to push some appointments later because he's probably gonna be late. So that's your segment of No Mames Abraham for today. But Vanessa, tell us what you've been up to. Welcome. Thank you for taking some of your time to come on this platform and talk to us a little bit about what it is that you do and how's life as Mrs. Texas Earth.
You know, it's really cool to be the queen. It's I used to have a little mug that said it's good to be queen, and now it's legit.
Okay.
To be super honest, so I had never done a pageant before. I had never. I mean, there's a lot of women who, you know, enter into the pageant world really, really young. Sometimes they'll do it when they're toddlers, like we see that show, the Little Miss Tiaras or Little Miss Toddlers. But I had never been part of that world. So last year, I actually signed up for the pageant 2 weeks before.
Okay.
And so I was scrambling to find a dress, get all the stuff. I was, you know, it's just the whole thing to prepare for the pageant. And usually it's months and months and months. But it was it was neat. It was a good experience. And I think me doing the pageant later in life, once I've already started my career, really helped me to do some self-reflection.
Okay.
Because you're forced to really think about who you are as a person and what's important to you. Because part of the pageant is the goal is to shine a spotlight on a cause, you know, whether that be some sort of charity or social issue or something. And there's so many causes out there. Like, there's so many issues that you can advocate for. The one you choose really depends on who you are as a person and what's important to you. And so you have to really think about, okay, who am I and what's important to me, and why do I want to help shine a spotlight or advocate for a certain cause or social issue or whatever it is. So that was really neat to be able to do that, because I was already married. I already had a career. I was a mom of a 2-year-old back then. And it was nice to refocus, you know, because at that point, you know, I'm a wife. I'm, you know, a part of the business realm, but I worked with clients, and then I was a mom. So like a lot of your identity starts to get fragmented. So it was good to kind of refocus and bring all of those identities together holistically. But it was really cool. Like once I won, I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Okay.
Because it's a lot of volunteerism. It's a lot of traveling for appearances, because I am the state title holder. So I live in El Paso, yay. But I do need to travel to the other cities to make appearances or do volunteer work in other cities like Houston or San Antonio, or I was in Pecos, Texas a couple of weeks ago. So it's really, really cool. It's really neat, but I really didn't expect to win. I was hoping to win, but, you know, because I had never done it before, I was kind of walking blindly. But it's a good experience to really, really understand who it is that you are, what's important to you. And then the skill sets transfer over into the business world, because there's an interview portion and then there's a stage speaking portion. And you got to prep for that, and you get exposed to that kind of experience. And so now later on, if I need to lead a meeting, you know, with a boardroom filled of like C-suite level people or, you know, executives, I have a comfort level already. Like
the
speaking
preparation
under pressure, speaking on stage. That's really cool. So that's not what I expected. I just wanted to dress up and, you know, take pictures. But you really do get a lot of really cool training that can help you in your career afterwards.
Cool. So you said 2 weeks before,
yeah,
you decided, hey, I'm gonna jump in. What led you to take that drastic change, or just what led you to dive into that?
Yeah, I met a great individual. She was in the pageant system, but she was in the Miss category because she's not married yet, or isn't married currently. And she's like, hey, they have a division or a category for women who are married. because it's changing now. I think Miss America and Miss Universe are now allowing married women to participate in the Miss MISS category. But before, it was like once you were married, that was a disqualifier. Like you could no longer participate in that pageant or in a pageant.
Okay.
It's changing now, but I wasn't aware, and she's like, you should do it. It'll be really fun. I'll help and guide you. So she really encouraged me to take that step, and I talked to my husband about it, and he's like, yeah, do it. It'll be cool. And so I tried it. It was fun. I don't think I would do it again, or I don't think I'll do another one, but I'm really happy that I did this one.
How long is your term as Mrs.?
So the full reign is a year.
Okay.
I will pass the crown on at the end of August. So almost.
And what impact do you think you've had, being that you are an El Paso? Are you born and raised here in El Paso?
So I was not born here, and I even hate to say it. I wasn't even born in Texas. I was born in Iowa.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, my dad was mad at my grandma, so he took my mom far away as possible. He got a job in Iowa. But I was born there, but I grew up here in Texas. I grew up in Houston and El Paso. So my family is from El Paso. I've chosen to stay here even after I graduated. And whenever I look for jobs, I always make sure that it's something that I can continue my career in El Paso, because I really love El Paso. You know, I grew up in San Eli and in Clint. And so I love the Mission Trail. I love being able to advocate for the area. And I think El Paso is getting ready to really, really, really see like a boom on all fronts.
Yeah.
So during my reign, it's been really nice to be able to, of course, travel and explore other cities, but then be able to advocate for El Paso anywhere that I would travel to.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, it's something very, very different. And especially with people migrating, not just to El Paso, but Texas overall. Everybody's coming to Texas. I think, states like California, states like Florida, and all these other blue states, and not necessarily, to get too political, but they're moving to places like Texas, like Florida, that are a little bit less, lenient on their, a little bit more lenient on their policies and whatnot. Which I really, really love. I mean, I read an article recently where Texas will become one of the USA's a metropolis by the year 2100. So it'll be, the Houston, Dallas, Austin area will be bigger than New York and LA and all those areas. So a lot of people are really, really migrating to Texas, and you advocating for Texas. How do you think that's impacted your career? Because there's a lot of duties that you have to fulfill,
Yeah.
And as you said, you have full-time job as a mom, full-time job as a wife, and a full-time job, in the professional world. How has this title impacted you, or has it hindered your ability to perform, or has it helped you grow in those other stages of your life?
Yeah, it's really helped me develop some discipline, because it's not like there's a lot of demands and requests of your time. So being at places where it's not always going to translate into conversion of a sale or revenue or anything like that, but overall the bigger picture, it helps to feed into that, So I think like in sales, like we understand sometimes you have to commit time or work towards something that doesn't immediately see that return. There's a delayed reciprocity that happens, but you establish relationships and you nurture the seeds that you plant, and then eventually it starts to, you'll see it come back to you. So a lot of this year has been, a lot of time away from my family, from my little one and my husband. I think that's been the toughest part, because it's been fun while I'm at the other cities and traveling, but I do miss them. Anytime you travel, you never want to travel alone. You want to travel with the people that you love or that you care about, because you want to share those experiences with them. And a lot of times, sometimes they travel with me, but most of the time, I'll go on my own, and I'm having a good time, and then my heart, is still being pulled back to El Paso, because I wish, my husband and my son could be there with me to see it. And, with my job, I think it's been really, really beneficial for my career, because it's helped to add to my brand. It's helped to add to the brand equity that I've tried to develop. So I've worked a lot with public-facing entities and organizations, and me having this title has helped to also elevate my profile when it comes to the public-facing platforms, so I did get the official Mrs. Texas platforms, and I was able to utilize that. And anytime I would make appearances, I could see that I could use it in a way that benefited all. So let's shine a light on a cause or an important social issue. Let's shine a light on El Paso, and then also shine a light on the people of El Paso, the businesses, or just my network of clients and colleagues. So it's been good. I think the only downside is that sometimes it's a lot of time away from the family.
Yeah, and finding that work-life balance. I mean, I can only imagine. My wife juggles it all: the kids, school, feeding me, raising me as well. And you having to be away. I'm pretty sure, your husband has to step up a lot of the times and help you, especially your son is, you said 2, 3?
Three. Well, he's three now, yeah.
He's 3 now?
Yeah.
So that work-life balance. What is one foundation or one something that you're trying to be really an advocate for? Last time we had a guest here who he was... he does a charity event once a year for an orphanage in Juarez. And that's something he's very passionate about. So with your title, what is something that you're very passionate about to kind of shine a light on?
Yeah.
What do you think that would be?
So it's going to be a combination of things. So initially, it was advocating for the deaf and hard of hearing community because I was born with hearing loss.
Okay.
And it's something that runs in my family. My sister has it. We think my dad has it too, but he's one of those that I don't want to go to the doctor. So he's never been diagnosed, but we can tell when he doesn't hear us when we talk to him. So all my life, since I was when they found out when I was younger, they just thought, Vanessa doesn't want to listen. She never listens. They would call me and I wouldn't turn, but I would always listen to the TV really, really, really loud.
Okay.
There was just certain signs that were there. And when I was in school, when I was in elementary, they wanted to put me in the special ed program because that was just kind of the automatic designation is if she is hard of hearing and wears hearing aids, then she needs to be in the special ed program. And it was I was lucky that I had my parents and my mom especially to advocate for me and say, no, she's fully capable. She just needs accommodations. She needs to sit in the front of class, make sure she has her hearing aids, and then when the teacher is teaching on the whiteboard, face her and speak to her because I had to read lips a lot. Sometimes I would rely on reading lips. I'm so good at reading lips. I know if somebody's talking about me across the room. I'd be like, you said my name. I could read your lips. But so little things like that. So it was really great that I had my mom advocate for me because if not, who knows what that trajectory would have been.
Exactly.
Had I been on the path that I wasn't supposed to be on. I actually had to go to speech therapy because I was pronouncing words the way I was hearing them and it wasn't accurate. So that was just I hated them. I hated my ears. I hated my hearing aids. I was bullied when I was younger. It sucked. It was just not fun. So when you get older and you're in high school and you start to kind of be your own person and you start to not listen to your parents and I'm going to do whatever I want. So in high school, I stopped wearing my hearing aids. I think I accidentally washed them in the washing machine. And then after that, I was like, it's fine. I don't need him. I hated him. I never wanted to talk about him. I never even told, there was a whole, all my friends didn't know about it. No one knew about it. I just, whatever. I didn't want it. I hated that part of my identity. So went throughout high school without my hearing aids. I probably could have done a lot better in school. I mean, I did great, but I probably could have excelled, had I been able to just actually listen and hear. So it wasn't until I was in college, I was entering college and I was dating somebody, and when you get together and you're dating and you're watching a movie and eating snacks and stuff, but I was the annoying one that was what happened? What did they say? What did they say? Because I couldn't hear what they were saying on the movie, so I kept asking, the guy, what are they saying? What? And he's like, well, what the heck? Are you deaf or what? He was like, why are you being so annoying and keep asking?
Yes, I am.
And I was actually, and he didn't know, and I felt I was hurt, but he inadvertently hurt me, but didn't. I mean, it was my responsibility to let him know about that side of me, especially somebody that I was dating, and you should be transparent and honest with that person, that you're dating or that you're going to spend a lot of time with. And so I kind of saw man, that's on me. I need to be more honest about who I am, at least with the people that are closest to me. And then eventually I discovered that I could get a tuition waiver from the state of Texas to go to college. And so little by little, like little pieces started to come together where I saw, you know what, this isn't all bad. Like maybe this is something that could be a positive.
Yeah.
So I went, I got, there's a lot of assistance from the states where you can get hearing aids because they're freaking expensive. They're like thousands of dollars each.
Were your parents pissed when you washed them accidentally?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, they were mad when those got washed. But so when I was in college, I had to fund my own hearing aids, right? Because I'm already in, 19, 20. And I was able to get a tuition waiver and go to school for free, which is an absolute blessing.
Of course.
When I got my hearing aids, I got them in and I realized there's conversations that I'm missing out on, that I'm not able to fully lean in and be part of because I wasn't hearing, and that was keeping me from my leadership aspirations, and I'm missing out on being part of really great decision-making conversations because I wasn't able to hear it. And I wasn't able to play an active role in those big meetings, at work or wherever it is. So after I finally just leaned in and accepted this part of my identity and actually was like proud of it, that's when things started to become very positive, and it was like a positive thing. So that's something that I really want to advocate. So the hearing loss and deaf mute community is something that I want to help parents recognize it early on and advocate for their children. But then also just the whole, El Paso community and just young generation of leadership of it's very cliche almost, but don't be ashamed of really what makes you who you are, because those are the tools that only you have.
Yeah.
And they're utilized to help make your dreams come true.
Yeah.
So if you keep pushing those away or keep not wanting to accept or be proud of parts of your identity, it's not going to allow you to live to your full potential.
Of course. And one thing, I heard, I think it was like a UFC fighter say it once, and kind of to touch base with the whole, the young people that are eventually going to be our leaders. But for me, it touched home when it said, don't peak early, is what he said. Don't peak early, which means, because you were self-conscious of the hearing aids maybe in high school, and that's why you went all high school without them, and because of what people may or may not think. And now you look back, and the people who were cool in high school and were doing the cool stuff are not so cool anymore. It happens everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And he said, don't peak early. And that's kind of a message that I would, if somebody's out there is listening to things like this, is don't let that define you. Don't let that be an obstacle or a hindrance. And speaking of obstacles, we also connected through an event that's going on tomorrow. I don't know when this will be out, but tomorrow being July the 8th, which is the Latin Talks, right? Where, they're interviewing people of Latin descent, and we're going to be talking in front of a group of 200 people is what they said?
Yeah.
200-300 people. And how just the Latin community in the United States and in Texas is outpacing every other community, right? We're outpacing just in growth, and with that growth and power and numbers comes power, right?
Yeah.
How has being a Latin or of Latin descent helped you in this current role as Mrs. Earth Texas?
It's really. I read recently that Hispanics in the Latin community are now the majority demographic in Texas, and Texas is such a key state for the country. That is so powerful because we hold the key to the future of the nation, and it's hard to really grasp what that means. So me being Mexican American and having the state title to represent an entire state, I don't think it's not a coincidence that I'm of my ethnic background representing a state that also has that demographic as a majority, and I'm very, very proud of it. I'm very proud of it. I think it is great to finally see seats at the table with a lot more representation of who it is that they are leading, because we don't want leaders who don't, share the same cultural understanding, don't share the same hardships, or don't experience the same type of adversities, that the people that they are expected or are called to lead. It's really important that the people who are in leadership positions and who are making decisions for a mass group of people actually are either representative of those people, or they have a really good understanding. They spend a lot of time, they grow up there, or, because if not, then we're going to have decisions being made that are not going to be in our best interest.
Of course.
Yeah.
So it's great to have that representation in every single aspect of it. Every, the Latino real estate agents are also on the rise, which I think is great for especially El Paso community. One thing that a lot of people in the El Paso community think is that there's too many real estate agents. But in El Paso, we're actually underserved with the amount of real estate agents that there is. And I mean, I want to say 95% of them are of, Hispanic descent, which is going to be the trend all over Texas. And I love it. What would be one thing if, there's a little girl out there watching and wants to be in this in the beauty pageant world, because we were talking about those shows where they start really, really young, and then you mentioned how you got up one day and said, "Hey, I'm going to do it, and in 2 weeks I'm going to be in a pageant." What would be one piece of advice that you would give, a little girl that's looking up to what you've done?
Yeah, so I think it's very important to be your own champion, because when things don't work out that the way you hope for them to work out, it really stings, and it's really painful to not win a pageant. It's really painful to not close a deal that you put a lot of work into. It's really painful to get a lot of no's around you. So you need to have tenacity. You need to really, really believe in yourself so that all of those things don't dull your sharpness. I've told young little girls that they'll see me with the crown and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I want one." And what I like to tell them, and what really, really makes their little eyes go real big, is I go, remember that you were born with a crown. It's invisible, but you always have it on. So this crown is just, it's not, just because you can see it doesn't mean it's any different from the one that you were born with. So never forget that. Always remember that you also have a crown on your head. And then there's that little saying where it's like, keep your chin up because the crown will slip, and so it's just empowering the little girls, so that whatever it might be, it means if you don't want to do a pageant, don't do a pageant. If you want to have, a career, have a career. If you want to be a mom and a wife, be a mom and a wife. But be so sure about who you are so that any decision you make, you can be absolutely confident in that decision.
Vanessa, do you have any other final words? Anything else that you want to get out there to the El Paso community?
Stay El Paso strong. El Paso is amazing. I think I would want our community to love El Paso more, because a lot of times people are like, "Oh, there's nothing to do here," or "I want to go live in Austin," or "I want to go somewhere else." But I think what we can do is be really appreciative of what we have, because the grass isn't always greener. Sometimes it's just spray painted green, but it's not. It's really yellow grass when you get over there. But I think us being a community, especially with any hardships or kind of tragedies that we experience as a community, El Paso is a big family, and in a lot of the challenges that the nation sees, El Paso it's almost in its safe little bubble. We don't see it as severe as other countries do, and I think that's something that we need to recognize and protect.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very, very much for coming on. I appreciate it. I hope we can do it again after the Latin talks.
We'll talk about it, and if I fall on stage, we can talk about that, and it'll be a good topic for the next one.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Vanessa.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Done.